What happened to Stealers Wheel? Let's rewind the clock to 1972. Two Scottish singer-songwriters, Jerry Rafferty and Joe Egan, formed Stealers Wheel in Paisley, Scotland. Both had worked together in earlier bands and found a solid musical chemistry. Stealers Wheel was their attempt to combine melodic pop, folk, and rock influences into a sound that stood apart from both the British glam and American rock dominating the charts. And they hit the ground running once they signed a record deal with A&M Records. Their self-titled debut album, Stealers Wheel, dropped in 1972. It featured the song that would define them forever, Stuck in the Middle with You. With its Dylan-esque vocals and tongue-in-cheek lyrics poking fun at record executives, the song struck gold, both literally and metaphorically. It peaked at number 6 in the US and number 8 in the UK, and remains one of the most iconic singles of the 1970s. At the time, some listeners even thought it was Bob Dylan. That's how strong the resemblance was. But here's the twist. Just as success was beginning to settle in, internal conflict started brewing. Jerry Rafferty left the band before the first album had even hit shelves. That's right, he was gone before they could ride the wave of Stuck in the Middle. Legal disputes and management issues complicated things further, forcing Rafferty to return just long enough to complete the band's second album, Fergusley Park, in 1973. That album included the minor hit Star, which reached the US Top 30, but never came close to their earlier breakout. By the time their third album, Right or Wrong, came out in 1975, Stealers Wheel was already unraveling. The band essentially dissolved that same year, after only 3 albums and just a few years in the spotlight. So why did they fall apart so quickly? The short answer: management woes, creative tension, and misaligned expectations. The long answer: Rafferty and Egan were brilliant songwriters, but had different visions for the band's direction. Add in industry pressure and legal entanglements, and you've got a recipe for a brief blazing flameout. After the breakup, Jerry Rafferty went on to enjoy a successful solo career. In 1978, he released his most famous single, Baker Street, featuring that iconic saxophone riff. The song reached number 2 in the US and solidified Rafferty as a serious solo artist. The album City to City sold over 5.5 million copies, toppling the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack from the top of the Billboard 200 album chart in the US on August 7th, 1978. Right Down the Line was the second single from City to City. The song made number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and number 1 on the Hot Adult Contemporary Tracks charts in the US. Rafferty's next album, Night Owl, also did well. Guitarist Richard Thompson performed on the track Take the Money and Run, and the title track was a UK number 5 hit in 1979. Joe Egan, on the other hand, released a solo album in 1979 called Out of Nowhere, which included the minor hit Back on the Road. While not nearly as successful as Rafferty, he continued to work in the industry before eventually leaving music altogether. Subsequent albums such as Snakes and Ladders 1980, Sleepwalking 1982, and North and South 1988 fared less well, perhaps due partly to Rafferty's long-standing reluctance to perform live, with which he felt uncomfortable. In 1980, Rafferty and Murphy produced a record for Richard and Linda Thompson. Though never released, it eventually evolved into their album Shoot Out the Lights. But Stealers Wheel wasn't done surprising the world. In 1992, nearly 2 decades after the band broke up, Stuck in the Middle with You experienced a massive revival when director Quentin Tarantino featured it in his debut film Reservoir Dogs. The song plays during a disturbing torture scene, and the contrast between its upbeat sound and the violence on screen made it unforgettable. Suddenly, a whole new generation was asking, who sings this song? This re exposure led to a brief re release of the single and renewed interest in the band's catalog, but by that time, the members had long moved on. On a Wing and a Prayer in 1992 reunited him with his Steelers wheel partner Egan on several tracks. Another World, released in 2000, was originally available only via direct order from his website, but since 2003 has been available on the Hypertension label. During November 2009, Rafferty released what would be his final album, Life Goes On. Jerry Rafferty passed away in 2011, and Joe Egan passed away in 2024. So, what happened to Steelers Wheel? They came together, they made magic, and they fell apart just as quickly. But sometimes one unforgettable song is all it takes to leave a mark. And that they did.